Hi, this is Dan, and in this video I'm going to be showing you the quick way to unblock the drain pump on your Fisher Paykel Smart Drive washing machine if it's not pumping the water out. This is the quick way. It's a nice easy way to do it, and there's a longer way to do it, which I'll make another video on, and that's helps if you've got something like you've been washing something woolen, you've got a lot of wool floating around in there, or that's the way we do it, is the long way, because that way you can clear everything else in the system. So if you washed a bedspread or a wool blanket or something, and you've got bits of fluff floating around in the machine, have a look at my other video, which will be on the long way of taking things apart. This is going to be the quick and easy way. Now, the first thing is that these machines may not drain for a couple of reasons. May not be because of the pump, because the computer in there is sensing a few different things. If the machine just stops and beeps at you, it may not be the pump. If, however, when we go to spin and we press start, we don't hear a humming noise, like at the moment it's going to drain, this machine's actually okay. If it makes just a buzzing noise, or just sits and makes a quiet hum or does nothing, then it could be the pump. If it stops and beeps at you and starts throwing up lights straight away, then it's probably a sensor, meaning it's not even getting on to the draining out stage. As a quick note, this is only for the Fisher Paykel Smart Drive, Smart Drive Eco and that kind of things. It's not for the active smart machines, the washing machines which don't have an agitator and they've got a flat pulsator. They have a different kind of drain pump, so you've got a bit more involved. Again, you can actually clear them out through the long way video I show you. And also some of the later smart drives, so ever since the 1990s, they've used this pump here, which is the easy one to clear. Some of the later ones, they're going through these pumps here. So when you're looking underneath, you're going to see that rather than seeing the bottom half of that. And this one here, there's a little tube which comes out and then goes up into the bowl. You've got to take this pump off and then undo these screws at the back. Take the pump housing off the pump motor, or pump motor off the pump housing, and clear them out that way. So this is just for the 95% of the smart drives that are out there at the moment, these machines with this pump here. So the first thing to do is unplug the machine from the wall. These machines are actually live even if you've got it turned off there, but it's plugged in, you can get electric shock off the pump. So really important to do that. The next thing is we need to get all this water out from the machine. Often will be dirty water there, so you need to get a bowl or a ice cream container or something like that, bail the water out. You can actually, if you reach down the middle of this agitator, there's a wing nut down there that unscrews, and then the agitator lifts off so you can get an ice cream container in there. We use a little kayak pump that would try to empty the water out, but that's the easy way to do it. If you want to get this lid out of the way, it just lifts off like that. What it is there's a slot here and on each side, and then there's a hinge here, so the lid just lifts off. Or to put it back on, you just put one side on, swap the other side on, and it's back on. So that gets that out of the way. You're then going to need to bail all this water out, and you're never going to get all the water out. Obviously there's some under the bowl, but what we're going to do is if you lean it back to approximately the balance point, or a little bit past the balance point, you can see right there, then there'll be the water will obviously sit on an angle. If you lean it back to that angle and then get all the water out as low as you can in the bowl on about that angle there, the drain pump's at the front, and so it's actually out of the water. You only have about a cup of water on the way. So lean it back, bail the water out, lean it back, and then bail the rest of the water out that you can't get to until the water's as low as you can get on this angle. And if you're past the balance point and you've got it bailed out, then you should be good to take the pump off. So this is what the underneath of the washing machine looks like. We've got the motor here, and this up in this corner is what we're interested in. This is our drain pump. Now you've actually got this little fan at the bottom here that's connected into the pump. You might have a plastic bag or something wrapped around there. If it's got underneath, it'll get sucked up. So that's a nice easy thing to check there. The first thing we want to do is unplug. There's one plug there that comes off, and there is this green wire here, this black plug you just squeeze and pull. Get those wires out of the way. Now this is a bayonet clip, kind of like some of those light bulbs that you press up and turn, except there's no actual pressing up here, but you're just going to do a quarter of a turn counterclockwise. There's a little clip at the top which we lift up, because that little clip there is what stops it from turning. So one hand lift that clip, the other hand turn, and there's going to be a bit of water coming out. If we bailed it out enough, there won't be too much there at all. And then you'll find that when you lift this pump out, either there'll be something in here, a big wad of fluff or a coin, hair clip, bra wire, something like that. If not, then we need to just have a feel up in here. Be careful you don't stab your finger. There's the main chamber, and the little wee outlet goes over towards this drain hose here. You don't need to take this hose off. That'll be a pain if you do that. or you can reach up further there into the secondary chamber, have a feel round. Usually you'll find it's right there, which is what's blocking the pump. A nail, hair clip, something like that, as I said. So you'll need to get that out. If you've got lots of fluff in there, then you probably need to watch my other video, which will be how to clear the pump out through the top, because if you clear the fluff out here, there's probably more fluff waiting. That'll just come back through the next load you do. While you've got the pump out, if you've got a multimeter, you can check its resistance between these two terminals here. The normal resistance of these, if it's cold, is 33 ohms. If it's been running for a little bit, it will get a little bit hotter. Down to 31, 32 ohms is okay. If you're starting to get to 30 ohms or below, then you probably find the pump is overheating. What can happen is, just due to age or water leaking through the seal, or if it's been blocked and sitting there humming, the pump will overheat and that can damage the windings. If your pump is just sitting humming and not pumping the water out, or if it runs for about 5-6 minutes and stops because the overheat cuts out and you've got to wait half an hour and it cuts back in again, don't keep using it. If you keep trying, this pump will burn out and it can sometimes blow up the control board on the way out. And suddenly, instead of putting a new pump in, you're putting a new pump and computer board. It just gets really expensive real quick. So 33 ohms or a little bit below will be all right. As long as you're not, if you're below 30, you need to put a new pump in. To refit the pump, these are the 3 locking lugs. There's 3 metal lugs on here. So we need to start with that terminal pointing up into this front corner and start rotating it clockwise. Make sure all 3 legs are locked in. We aren't on an angle. And keep going clockwise until that clip at the top clicks back into place. Once we're there, that plug is on. There's actually little wee 2 little wings on the bottom, locating lugs, one at the top, one on the bottom, 2 at the top because we're upside down here. It can only go in one way, and this wire here is quite important. That's our earth wire, needs to go onto the earth terminal there. And then our pump's back in. We can tilt the machine back up, connect up any hoses we took off, put back on the lid, then the agitator, and put a bit of water in it, test drain it, and see how it goes. Just a quick comment about these pumps while we're here. These pumps, made in France, Fisher Paykel was using them from the early 1990s through to only a couple of years ago. Then they started moving over to those other ones I showed you earlier in the video. And they, this is an old one with this impeller on, they've gone through different shapes here. But the company that makes them in France makes quite a few different pumps and went bankrupt a couple of years back. And I think Fisher Paykel tried to buy out just the department that made these pumps, but the bankruptcy court wouldn't allow it. And so for a few months there, it was a bit hard to get pumps. The replacement for them is, I believe it's actually based off a Smeg dishwasher drain pump. And with slight modifications, fits in the same way. It's still got these 3 lugs here. It's been modified to have those terminals on it. The main difference is, it'll run at a slightly different RPM, you'll hear it slightly differently. This pump here, if you look, that seals a flat surface there. This pump here, it's not. There's a recess under there. Now this pump is made to go on a dishwasher, sit sideways on, whereas this pump, because it's sitting upright, any sand or grit will form around the bottom, and so it's flat, so that sand and grit just gets flung out with the water flow and gets drained out. Whereas these pumps aren't. Most pumps are never mounted this way up because they have problems with sand, such as the Electrolux recirculation pumps. So if you're somewhere with a beach where you've got lots of sand or gravel, then you have to put a new pump in, you can get gravel and stuff underneath this. Now this impeller does thread off if you need to. Usually that will just spin. You can grab a screwdriver, wedge it in between that rotor and the housing to hold it still, and unthread this, clean any sand out. But you really need to pre-rinse your washing if you've got sand in it, or find a second-hand pump that you can put in that will store right. If you haven't got a lot of sand and grit, then they will be fine. Just their one weakness.